Hello, I'm excited to present our work titled Sleep Planning with Awari, uncovering the materiality of body rhythms using research through design. My name is Kasper Karlgren and I'm presenting this work on behalf of myself and Donna McMillan at Stockholm University. This work is centered around a set of workshops and interviews with people who sleep outside the norm and the design process of Awari, a prototype of a web-based interface where users can explore possible outcomes from decisions of sleep timing through interaction with the alertness forecasting system. Self-tracking technology today is widely available through wearables and smartphones, and sleep tracking in particular is provided built-in using sensors such as accelerometers and microphones. Tracking sleep using end-user technology has been seen as promising in terms of long-term tracking and identifying key elements that hinder sleep quality. But the technology has also received critique for being hard to act upon, and it's relying on the users to interpret hard-to-interpret data, in particular in its focus on general sleep scores and sleep phases instead of caring of influenceable factors of sleep. This work takes an opposite approach where we explore how sleep technology could be reframed around actions from learnings from people who need and take action over their sleep. We call these non-normative sleepers. Our method includes both an overarching research through design process with the prototype of Awari and a set of 4 workshops, each with 2 to 3 participants and 6 interviews. These participants were recruited for being non-normative sleepers, including shift workers, represented by nurses and bartenders, and sleep hackers who were focused on structuring the sleep around planned naps. These sessions were conducted to let the participants share their attitude towards sleep and identify how technology could support their lives and sleep. The data from these sessions were coded using a hybrid coding approach with analysis framed around learnings from marginal practices and to provide new perspective on the use of technology from extreme users. From the empirical data collection, we identified 3 key points of how sleep tracking could fit a less normative sleep schedule. First off, more variable goal setting to fit their current situation. As sleep varied around their work, so did their goals around sleep. At times it was more important to make social life work, and at other times to recover from a tough week. Second, a more flexible representation of sleep and waking hours, as naps and daytime sleep challenge the norm of when sleep happens and break the segmentation of sleep being the transition between days. And lastly, a focus on the result of sleep rather than the process of sleep, as the participants' focus was often just on being alert when needed, or at times catching any sleep before work. The design of Awari's system underwent several changes, with the final system being presented here in this image. The system built on existing use of sleep tracking and calendars to provide an overview of one's alertness in the coming days. For the forecasting, we have turned to a model called the 3-process model of alertness. Using the system, a user can explore different sleep schedules using a set of variable preferences and a specific timestamp of when wants to be alert. These inform a reinforcement learning model to schedule sleep around one's schedule and preferences. And by tweaking the variables such as tolerance for being tired and speed of circadian change, one can explore how different approaches and preferences would influence one's coming sleep and alertness. Based on the empirical data and the design research, we described 3 rhythms that govern processes such as sleep, as well as different ways in which how these can be influenced. Not seeing alertness as one process, but several different rhythms, each with their own properties, guided the design process. And we call these rhythms slow and cyclical, pressure and release, and anchored rhythms. We also categorize 3 sets of influences one has on these rhythms. For more on these, please turn to the paper. The first rhythm described is the cyclical influence in our body. These can be described in terms of length, where the alertness is bound by a circadian rhythm. One of these properties of this rhythm is how it's continuously syncing and changing, but only to a certain small degree. This rhythm is everyday truncated or elongated as a result of social and physical influences, such as light. The limit of one's daily influence, both in minimal and maximum extent, which is both contextual and personal, was expressed through the challenges of the participants in shifting between schedule. As this was not quickly influenced, one can instead look at the daily change vector playing over longer spans. Designing for nudging cyclical rhythms can support preparation of transition between work schedules and time zones and show trajectories of the following influence of one shift. The pressure and release rhythms is perhaps the most intuitive way of understanding sleep. The longer one is awake, the higher the pressure and sleep becomes, until one sleeps and some or all of the pressure is released. A general description of the rhythm can be structured through an understanding of the rate of buildup and the minimum and maximum extent of the pressure. The rhythm is established through the timing of the release action, such as when one sleeps. And in the case of alertness, this creates an intuitive but clearly asymmetrical relation, where the higher one's pressure, the higher the probability of one falling asleep. This influence plays a role of how one approaches sleep, where it takes a tolerance of avoiding to take a nap or to sleep to make sure one can fall asleep later. Lastly, the relationship between going from awake to asleep can be described as a rhythm, and we describe this in the paper as an anchored rhythm, where the process of onset can be seen to happen through a ritual, is a series of actions scaffolding the shift. This rhythm can be similarly elongated and truncated and supported through increasing the steps in the process, but ultimately is defined by the distance of alertness one has to manage. This lens is grounded in the way our participants describe their actions in relation to falling asleep, as a sequence of action and when they took place. To many, a goal is to truncate this as short and controlled as possible, such as refraining from caffeine and tobacco and stressful confrontations in the final hours of one's working shift in order to be able to shorten the final sleep onset. But this also shows that this rhythm can and will overlap with work hours, which can be seen in terms of how fast one can be up and running for work in the morning. In discussion, we suggest that making self-tracking technology focus on the future self instead of past progress might increase the engagement of the technology, and possibly going from tracking to noticing how one can influence one's body processes. Secondly, we propose a well-being related technology to be built, allowing the end user to practically understand the model by providing the abilities to hands-on explore the results in the context of one's own data, as a way of addressing the data variance of self-tracking. Finally, this work presents its contribution through two main takeaways. First, this presents a case of alternative ways of rephrasing the use and problem solution orientation of sleep technology. In the context of looking for action-oriented sleep tracking technology, we reframed the technology from retrospection to alertness forecasting. The second contribution is from our analysis stemming from both the workshops and the design case, giving us a description of the rhythms and influences that can describe a body process as a material of change. And thank you for listening in. If you have any question, please feel free to email either me or Donald McMillan. Thank you.